DPW and Fire Station Building Committee. It is Thursday, June 4th. My name is Sean Riley, and we just have several items on the agenda that we wanted to update both the committee, some of the people who are in attendance, and of course the general public. Things are moving along very well down on Central Street, but if we can take care of some administrative things first. We had distributed some meeting minutes from our January 28th meeting, and we're looking for a vote to approve those meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Derek, seconded by
I'll second.
Gordon. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you, it's unanimous. And then we're going to take a vote. Hello, Michael, how are you? Good. Taking a vote to ratify some of the invoices that have been paid through the process. Any invoice that is issued goes first through our project managers, Pomeroy, goes through Derek Hamadi, who's our committee treasurer, and then eventually goes through the town manager's office. All of those eyes are on it before it gets paid. But I know Derek had submitted a list of the different invoices, including some Pomeroy project manager invoices, some KBA architect invoices, and some general expenses. If you want to describe what we're approving, Derek?
Yep, so we have 4 Pomeroy invoices, 4 KBA invoices, 4 Triumph modular invoices, Bob's Tire, and 1 UTS. I was going to make a motion to ratify the payment of the invoices by the town since January 28th, 2025, as presented. The total being $335,112.39.
Second.
Seconded by Kevin. Any questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Derek, for the work, and we will move on to an update of the construction process. We have, if you recall, for the viewers at home, Phase 1 was the construction of the salt shed and the town fuel island and that new driveway. Phase 2 is considered more as the larger portion of the project, which is the construction of the actual DPW building, the fire station building, and the remainder of the site. So if we could ask, we have Dave Ambrose and Taylor McDonald from Pomeroy Associates, who are our professional project managers. Gentlemen, if you want to kind of give us a summary and update as to where we've been and where we are.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm going to hand it over to resident David Ambrose to give us an update here.
Okay, so we'll start with the fire station. So the fire station masonry and block is about 65% done in the entire space. Stairwell installations, all stairwells are in and poured as we speak. They're actually finishing the last 4 stairs right now. We have like 35% of the waterproofing done on the exterior of the building, which will just be an ongoing process for the next several months before we put brick on the building. Roofing is like 70% done right now in the fire station. The only roof that remains is the lower section of the roof, which is, there's some Hunter panels, the metal panels, the finished panels, some details that have to be worked out there, and then the roof will be on probably by next Tuesday, Wednesday, before the rain comes. Interior walls, so the first floor is 95% framed, the second floor is 95% framed. They chopped off the second floor walls and the first floor walls to allow mechanicals to be put in, so they're not working over ductwork and sprinkler pipes. Exterior soffits are 90% done, probably by the end of the week, those will all be done, ready to be covered. Fire protection is in real good shape, 60% done right now. They just got some main fire panel, fire equipment to hook up to feed the system in that one room. Ductwork is 30% done on the first floor, 25% done on the second floor. Piping is well underway for refrigerant and heating piping, 80% on the second floor and 50% on the first floor. Plumbing rough is, first floor is 65% done in wall and 80% done on the second floor. Rough electrical is pretty much 100% on all conduit on the first floor for Teldata and E91 system. Second floor is 65% wired right now because we have a tight roof. So that's pretty much it for the fire station. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, can I just ask on the fire station? So is the general administrative area weathertight now?
Not on the lower roof side.
Okay,
It's not weather tight yet. It'll be weather tight probably, I won't say.
If you're looking at the building, the right side. that
okay.
lower-
So then the other question I have is roughly timing. On the brickwork and the doors, the apparatus doors and the trim, roughly,
So they're gonna start brick probably toward the end of next week, the beginning of the following week, on
Okay.
the east side of the building, and run around.
run around?
Yeah,
And what about on the doors, the apparatus doors?
that'll probably be a month or two from now.
Okay. And then the trim,
The trim follows, the door follows. and
Okay.
The windows are already measured, they're being fabricated right now.
okay,
You're probably 3 or 4 months out
Yeah.
before all those systems are in.
okay,
Before you start seeing
yeah,
the building the way it really looks. Metal,
Okay.
metal panels will come,
all right,
they'll start measuring those.
very good. So by the end of the summer, roughly,
Yeah, it'll start looking like
a
like,
building,
instead
yeah.
of just this big gray thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. DPW, metal siding and trim is pretty much 80% done. Roofing is 85% done. They're finishing up, they have the backside of the admin half on right now. Tomorrow they'll probably finish the rest of the admin and then finish the panels, the vertical panels above the admin area. So pretty much probably by the end of next week, they should be on detailing gutters and et cetera. Bunch of pieces that just pretty the building up, basically. So they started with masonry yesterday. They're like 50% done on the block wall. They have the whole vehicle barrier wall done, separating the vehicle storage from the admin area. That's done already. Rough electrical conduit is already in. The trench drains are in. They're gonna start prepping the vehicle storage bay next week for the slab. Tuesday of next week, they're gonna pour both mezzanine slabs, so you get to see what you have. The railings are up, the access gates are already in. MVP starts probably sometime next week, which is electrical, plumbing, sprinkler, et cetera. Go ahead.
Do we have, between, you just piqued my interest on something. You said that there was a barrier wall between the
The vehicle bay.
Mechanics bay.
Vehicle
building,
storage.
Vehicle storage. Is there a separation between the fire and the DPW delineated on the plans at all? Or do we have some sort of a wall? I guess what I'm thinking is, we've got a massive, or going to have a massive paved area out there, I'm assuming. And I think there's got to be some delineation, so the departments know who's got what.
Well, part of the planning board approval was that there would be a written agreement with the town manager and the departments about, including the police department,
Right.
about how they will share and coordinate their uses.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is that you're going to have 3 different departments on that location.
Yeah.
And,
And their uses are gonna change as seasons change.
Exactly.
Different
And I
equipment
think-
comes in and out for both.
I think there's got to be some line of demarcation, if you will. If it's a little wall or something off to the side, not across, but something to show, because having done this, as I did in 2 other communities, I know the problems that can emanate from it. So I think we've got 3 different departments down there. I think we've got to have something to show
Some sort of landmark.
whose yard is what.
Yeah, I think we could certainly do that and walk it with every single department once the site is established
Right,
more
yeah.
and kind of lay that. Maybe there's some paint markings we do or something like,
That's
whatever the.
I mean, there's got to be something out there to delineate it. I can, from experience, I can tell you there'll be fights if you don't.
And I think there's also gonna be a phase where, and we'll get into this, we're hoping that the DPW building, the garage portion of the building is ready for us to move some of our winter equipment in sometime around Thanksgiving, could be December. So there'll be probably a need to kind of fence off that area so that the police and fire will use the new driveway while the fire station is still under construction. DPW building will still be under construction also, but we're trying to get the DPW's winter operations out of North School and up onto Central Street where the salt shed is, and it's just much safer up there. So to your point, I think that's going to start developing as both buildings get occupied. how are we gonna handle that? And that's gonna be maybe not a Pomeroy decision, but maybe not a building committee decision, but.
No, I think that's,
department.
I just offer that as part of the minutes so that
Yeah.
it's emblazoned in the minutes that the concern was made, and then as,
Right.
you know,
So we're
throw it
not
to Michael's hands to.
stepping on toes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna elaborate with that a little bit when I got to the site.
Go right ahead, sir, keep going.
Site work, installation of all the drainage structures is like 80% done. There's two structures that are left that we're waiting for to come in, which are just minor drainage structures that pick up. There's a second gate valve that goes into one of the drainage structures, not here yet. It's coming next week, so that'll go in. All the piping, interconnecting piping through all the systems are done. We got the water lines tested and inspected both by the water department, and those are chlorinated, those are all flushed out, those are live. Your hydrant behind the vehicle maintenance building right now, the new one is live. So
Good.
that's live to there, and the maintenance building was off and the police station, little gym was off, or whatever building that is,
Yep.
was off for a day, which no one knew that was connected to that same water main.
Until they went to go get water.
Till he went to get water, so. Tell data conduits, those will start next week between the vehicle maintenance building and the police station, and at the same time, they're gonna be running up to the DPW, the interconnect between the two buildings. One of the conduits they're gonna use for temporary power, and the other conduits will just be empty. We have, well, only the last thing we gotta do is they gotta test the sewer manholes and drain manholes with you guys. Once they get to that point, they'll check with you guys and schedule a time to look at that. So we'll go from there. Each close to doing that, but all the pipes connected. So another thing we're gonna do to expedite this DPW, in November, Thanksgiving, thereabouts, we're gonna pave all the way down to just at the end of the vehicle maintenance building, all the way out around the corner over to phase one. That'll be binder sometime mid to end of July. We'll start putting curbing in, probably won't make the planting, there's a couple planting beds, one where the generator is behind the police, small building there. There's a generator, a transformer, a dumpster pad, there's a bunch of plantings, so we probably won't make the plantings this season. We'll wait till the spring to do that. They're planning on sometime just before the plants close, top coat, before the winter comes. So from vehicle maintenance all the way around, all the way through phase one out to the street, 100% done. Now you have nothing, no structures in the way, no manholes to hit.
Great.
So you can finish that. And that kind of will be the delineation, the DPW, they're gonna put a fence, Gina, we'll put a fence there anyways, just to separate the fire station. And that will be kind of a delineation, quasi-temporary delineation of where, after that, that's one big huge parking lot. It'll be up to the three different departments to, I guess, fight it out.
Well, I think there's been a lot of great cooperation, and obviously, we have to maintain access not only to the DPW, but also to the back of the fire station, like the tower truck comes through the back, the vehicle maintenance building for all the different town departments, so, it'll be a work in progress. It can always be tweaked if need to be tweaked. And just for people at home, all the conduits that Dave's talking about, all the electric, the cable, not the cable, the fiber, and everything's underground on site. Once it comes across Central Street, everything's underground. And as you mentioned, we have some extra conduit in there for the future, so we don't have to rip up everything we're paying for to put in place, so. And can you guys just summarize too about phase one, the salt shed, fuel island, everything's up and running?
Everything's up and running, there's just a couple little straggler punch list items that kind of just gotta do some general cleanup. They hydro seeded the rest of the area, so we just gotta wait for that to grow. There's just a little minor cleanup.
Yep.
Just-
For all intents and purposes, they're done.
They're
over
done.
there.
Yeah.
It's
Everything
great.
seems to be working fine. I haven't heard anything from anybody.
Great. Unless there's any questions, I wanted to move on to just, if you give us an update, you've been working very diligently with National Grid, trying to get everything on site, the gas, the electric. I think you've been pretty successful at it, David, thank you. Where are we with that? Everything,
So right now, we have the sewer line, the deep sewer line right to the culvert. There's a culvert that we have to go under. And probably next Tuesday, Wednesday, we're gonna have National Grid come hold that pole, the existing pole. We'll go under the culvert. Once we go under the culvert, we'll connect it to the sewer manhole that's on the other side of that. Then they'll start digging the conduit, which will be Wednesday or so. Once the conduit's in, National Grid is like, not chomping at the bit, but they've come twice, unbeknownst to anybody, pulled up with a truck with a telephone pole, ready to put the pole in, I'm like, whoa, calm down. We're not ready yet. I mean, the poles only go 6 feet in the ground, and we have pipes that are much deeper than that and below the pole. So we don't wanna knock the brand new pole down, so we had to send them away, but they're chomping at the bit. I know for a fact that I have an inside source that the transformers are sitting, waiting for us to, I mean, they have probably 100 of them sitting there, the same size. So we're not gonna have a problem with the transformers. It's just a matter of getting our stuff done.
right?
National Grid Gas, I've been going back and forth for the past couple of days of, they got wind of the slight environmental issue that we had previously. We're gonna actually move the line outside of that. No extra cost, it hasn't been put in.
Great,
And just not deal with soil. GNR is probably gonna end up digging the trench for them, just because the soil, we wanna control the soil. If it happens to be clean soil, we wanna send it over the sewer beds. We don't want National Grid playing games with the soil and causing a big problem. We'd just rather have GNR dig it. And
I appreciate it.
This was the oily soils from the hydraulic fluid.
Yeah,
Because it was a reportable condition to DEP, the utility company knew about it, so they were asking, well, if we dig this soil, what do we have to do with it? And Dave worked it out with GNR and just said, look, how about GNR digs the trench, and you guys just put in, or digs the trench, we'll put it, they'll put in the pipe too, right?
they'll put in the pipe, we'll put in like sand on the bottom.
Yeah.
They'll put the pipe in, GNR will help backfill it, they'll put tape in.
National Grid just
Yeah, and
inspects it.
then we don't have to worry about National Grid having to
Yeah.
worry about the soil.
It just becomes like, where do we put it? Knowing them, they'll stack it in the middle of the street, which we don't need, so.
Wonderful. I mean, the coordination has been impressive. We all been kind of following along. And I know it's funny that National Grid is showing up when you're not asking, because for a long time they weren't responsive. But you were a dog on a bone about that, so that was great. Saved us some money when they wanted a big steel plate, and we were able to maneuver out of that. So all those cost savings we appreciate, which we can move on to, just keep going down the list. I wanted to highlight, I know we've had long discussions and at town meeting, talking about some overruns with the soil conditions, but I wanted to point out a couple of things where we've been diligently trying to save money. And one of them was, you just mentioned, some of the soils, the clean soils that came off that we had to excavate and move. Normally the town would be paying for those to be trucked and hauled away and pay for someone else to put it on their site. The DPW, John Stone, came up with a great solution and worked it out, that the town owns an area in Abington, informally described as the old sewer beds, where we currently would put excess snow up there and maybe excess DPW materials. Essentially, that's where that clean soil went up there. It was a double savings for us, and I don't want to, you tell me if I'm wrong, John, but it was a savings to this project. It was literally several $100,000 worth of expenses that we saved. But it's also a good quality enough soil that the town could potentially use it for part of the capping of the landfill on Groveland Street. So now the town doesn't have to go out and buy soil. And for any general projects that the DPW needs clean soil, it's now there, free of charge. You've already started using it? Well,
Some of it.
great. Again, just great coordination, and that was a huge savings that kept this project moving forward. And it was also a benefit to the truckers, because they didn't have to drive to Bridgewater or Dayton or wherever. They could just empty the soils in Abington. And there was also a couple things, and feel free to bring up some of the things. The fire department had brought up the idea to eliminate the BDA antennas, the bidirectional
Bidirectional antenna.
antennas.
Yeah. It's a signal boost for the radio system.
Yes, which after reviewing it all, even though it was in the initial drawings, we discovered it wasn't necessary, and it did, that, again, saved us a good chunk of money, which is great. The fire department was looking at some of the walls for, they have a lot of technical equipment and some safety equipment, and we were able to delete a wall. It was basically two rooms together where some of the equipment was, and we were able to delete a wall. Doesn't sound like much, but it's just another effort where we could save it, and it made sense. We put that together. Derek, you've been working very hard with the revision of the overhead doors, both in the style, but also the track of the doors. That has been a long discussion with some of the door manufacturers, but we were trying to avoid the cost of having a huge, what am I looking for, the machine up there that pulls the door. We didn't want an overweight door. And we also needed to clear everything that's up on the ceiling. So that was a great savings. And then we're looking at eliminating a closet area in the DPW office building just to maximize office space and also save a little bit of money. So those are some of the things that we've been working on, just examples. I'm sure there's many more, and if anyone has one they want to mention, please do. But we're doing our best to kind of spend the money wisely because it's to everyone's benefit.
When are you going to take up the question on the revision for the office?
Right now.
All right.
So the closet that I was just mentioning, which is to us is known as closet B103 on the plans, in the DPW office area, there is basically a storage closet, and then next to it was another closet, more of an electrical closet. The
Emergency electrical closet.
Yes, it was an emergency transfer switch. The door to that closet area was actually in the hallway. The door to the storage closet for the office is in the office. We were trying to see if we could move that electrical closet to another part of the building to enhance the amount, or enlarge the amount of office space for the future. And we were talking to the staff just yesterday, was that? Yesterday, the day before, I'm losing my days. And they noted that they could forego the in-office closet because they wouldn't be hanging their coats there, they'd be hanging the coats in their locker room, and any sort of storage of paper or whatnot could be handled with just some basic shelving. So we were looking at two lines of thought. One was keeping the DPW closet and eliminating the electrical B103 closet and moving the electrical components to the mezzanine. And there's also another option of moving the electrical components in B103 and just putting it into the paper closet, the DPW office closet, since they're not going to use it for office purposes. We could simply move the electrical components about 10 feet and free up more office floor space. That seems to be very easy to do, cheaper. We have to go through the contractors to make sure there's nothing up in the ceiling that conflicts or whatever. But you guys, I know, have been looking into this a lot, and I know Bob has been going over the plans in detail. Tell me what you're thinking, what you'd like to add.
Well, I think the change into the coat closet, if you will, is probably the easiest and most cost-effective.
And I'm sure our project managers would agree with that, and we don't anticipate really any cost to doing that, but there's a benefit in that we get more office space, so we get room for another desk, or who knows what the future will bring.
Agreed. Much more cost effective, if any cost at all. We'll discuss that with the contractor, but moving the equipment up into the mezzanine was just starting to have kind of a butterfly effect on a few things, and it wasn't going to be the no-cost change that we thought it would be, but moving to this other closet solution will probably most likely be either a very low cost or no cost.
Kevin?
If I could, into the broader question too, so basically what I'm hearing you say, and just bear with me, is that to affect the change of the simplest form that we're talking about will be little to no cost, no additional cost, whereas the other would be, you'd have to move the entire electrical apparatus. So it would make more sense, and I think we probably want to take a motion to that effect once we get to that. But more importantly, I guess, and I want to state this for the record, the additional 1.6 million we got clearly we have to backfill some stuff that we had to take out to use for the remediation of the soils. Once we do that later on in the agenda, I think we have to then put a hard stop on the contingencies.
Yep.
And having said that, I think the committee has to be mindful, we serve as advisory to the town manager. I think we've come down to the fact where we've got a contingency, that contingency is going to have to, both from an administrative and a policy level, have final approval by the town manager, because we're getting down to the end. My fear is, because I've done several of these projects, when somebody sees we've got a bulk of money, it's the Sears Christmas wish book
Right.
comes out. And I think we have to be mindful that the people, thankfully, agreed with our assessment, the way we've been doing things, but we've got to put a hard stop to everything right now. So with that said, I'm going to make a motion that we authorize approval of that change order only if and only it results in negligible cost effects based on what you're saying, and not the broader question of going forward. And I would like to put that issue to bed today if we can.
Yeah, no,
So that's my motion.
So the motion is to give direction to Pomeroy to pass on to the contractors to move the transfer switch closet into the coat room closet, let's call it, and then eliminate the original B103 closet.
Yeah, we'll get a price to do it first, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll give them that direction. Dave can pass that
Yeah.
along. Yeah.
So, any questions from DPW or architects or anything? No? So, any questions from the board? That's the motion, we just want to get that on the table so we can confirm the direction. All those, motion by Kevin, seconded by
I'll second it.
Bob. All those in favor of that revision to the floor plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think that's a win-win-win all around. That moves us into kind of, Kevin segued into, we want to review the budget status as a whole and some of any details that we want to mention. As Kevin alluded to, the town meeting approved the $1.6 million bond, which kind of supplemented our budget. Really, there was more than $1.6 million in soil remediation costs, but we used much of our budget to pay for that, taking money out of other line items, furnishings, the entire contingency, which started at $2 million. So now with the 1.6, Taylor has put together an updated budget and shown that some of that 1.6 is not 100% available to us in a contingency, because we had to put money back into some of the line items that we know we need to pay for. And Taylor is also following anything that's really pending. Each week, there is a work meeting where there are paperwork is reviewed, and so he's tried to put together, I don't want to call it a worst-case budget, but let's call it a conservative budget, which shows our current status. And Taylor, why don't you give us a summary of where we are?
Sure. So this is actually my second update since the town meeting, because once the town meeting was finished, I introduced the 1.6 into the line 31, the owner's contingency. So that's why you don't kind of see that influx of money in the recommended adjustments here, because it was in budget update 13. But I wanted to give you guys the most up-to-date snapshot of this. So since that time, there's really been two different changes. We finalized change order 9 Monday. There was a smaller change order, it's $33,000 in terms of everything. It's a smaller change order. So you can see the change there to the phase 2 construction number, which is GNR's overall contract price. And then we had item number 8, which was for additional LSP time spent by Weston and Sampson. And if Brian, if you want to come up and maybe just give a quick rundown of what that's for. But this is something that we discussed with Michael last week when this came up. But basically, when we had the reportable condition from the oily soils or the hydraulic soils on site, it started a path forward with DEP. And that path forward with DEP is very labor intensive in terms of the paperwork that needs to be tracked, the testing that needs to be done, the on-site time that Weston Sampson had to be there. So they sent this amendment to me, and I discussed it with Michael and the team. But I have it, I'm tracking it on our budget now, because it is a real cost
Yeah.
that we need to recognize. And it's not for anything over and above that the design team did, or they're not asking for more money. This is strictly time spent dealing with DEP and dealing with the oily soils condition that we had on site.
And just to clarify with people at home, when we're talking about this hydraulic soil, this is the hydraulic soil that we found underneath the 1942 building that we tore down.
Correct.
It was underneath a concrete floor. And lo and behold, we became responsible for it. And then once we see it, we have to notify DEP. And then Weston and Sampson, who is represented today by Brian McCusker, they call it an LSP, which is a licensed site professional, who basically tests the soils and then tells us, according to state law, what we need to do. So you can summarize it, Brian, as best you want.
Yeah, no, correct. Thank you for all that, and I appreciate you guys having it. Brian McCusker, Weston and Sampson. So, yeah, just some of the things. This is related to close out the soils on the site, so it is, it's a long paperwork trail. Some of these costs as well are not with Weston and Sampson. They're outside consultants, tests and laboratories, groundwater tests and things like that. We're still actually actively working on this. It's a 1-year closeout period with DEP, so it is pretty extensive. And we're hoping to have that closed out, 1 year from the timed event, which I believe was last July. I don't have the actual date, but yeah, that triggered an IRA, which is an immediate response action. DEP had to be notified within 2 hours of the spill. So they do take these seriously. But at the end of the day, we need to get this building built. So we've tried to be cost effective. We have it broken down very well. I believe you have the proposal in front of us. I'm here to answer any questions on it. If anyone has any.
Gavin?
I think in the broader, not so much for you, but in the broader scheme of the accounting, what, if at all possible, in the town, we would get sheets on a monthly basis saying the year-to-date actuals and how much is left, what percentage, where you are at the given point.
Yeah, I have that too, it's just not.
Yeah, I think is there any way, because I guess the question that comes to my mind, and just generally, I'm using it as an example, not picking on it, but say the engineer or the architect's contract, if we've paid, if 80% of the work is done, what portion have we paid? And what do we have left to do? And the same vein of, in this particular case, where we've had an overrun, which we understand, and we've provided for it, but I think if that's possible to break down to say, we had budgeted for 100% and it's now at 150%. We understand that, and that line is in a negative category, but it shows up so we can track it, at least as a committee for oversight, and it's more for auditing purposes. So when the auditors come in, they look at it and they say, okay, who is keeping track of this? And there has to be a governance. Well, the committee is the governance. And if the committee isn't being reported, the auditors are going to look at this and say, well, we're going to make that as a finding against the town in our audit report because you didn't do your due diligence and keep on top of it. So if you could, if we could get a report broken down, if it's already done, then
Yep, it's already done.
it's a question of just
Yeah.
sending it out to us so we can have it and make it part of the minutes, so when the auditors come, they can see that we have reviewed it and we can see, because they'll be asking those questions.
Absolutely, yeah, this sheet ties to our monthly invoice
Okay.
sheet. And so you'll see on that, anytime we have an update, it'll be on there. But so take the design, for instance, we have design under a line item that says original contract. And then each and every amendment to that is below that. So you can see each change, but yes.
Could you then send that to Sean so we can make that part of the minutes?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that would,
Because I'll tell you, the auditors will pick up on it.
Yeah.
Especially a project this.
I do need to update it because I updated this as of Tuesday.
That's fine, yeah.
And I just haven't updated that portion yet, but I do have last month's. But yeah, anytime this is updated, the payment portion of it is updated as well. So I can tell you at any point who's been paid what, how much, what percentage, how much is left, that's all there.
We just need that for the
Yep.
record.
no, I agree, because it's, even issues like materials testing, how much, we budgeted a certain amount, how much is the total amount? Furnishings, we'll talk about, that had a number, then it went down to 0. We're looking to maybe supplement that. And we should be able to answer questions if anyone asks us.
Absolutely.
Where the money's going to and what we've paid for in full. And I want to, in as much, even though it cost us extra money, we all had agreed that we wanted to make sure that the site was clean and safe for the employees, 100%, and it is. So we're happy about that. We're just, unfortunately, the town had to foot the bill. But pretty much behind us now. We'll pay the bills as they come in. I want to give a shout out to Pomeroy, once again, our project managers. There's been, and not for anybody in this room, there's been a couple of bills submitted that Pomeroy pushed back and challenged and said it just looks like a little bit too much, maybe not good bookkeeping on their end, and you were able to drop some of those bills. So everything is being really looked at 2 or 3 times, as I mentioned earlier. But I said to you, Taylor, yesterday or the day before that I think you've saved us more money than we're paying you. So
Hopefully, I mean, I think this project more than most, we've been overly nervous because of where things were going with the soils. So not that we don't look at other projects under a microscope, but I think we were looking at this through a microscope and another microscope because the soils were really having an effect on the overall budget. And thankfully to the town, they did approve that 1.6. So if you look at this budget now, it's not like we have 1.6 to play with.
Right.
So about 600 to 700 of that had to fund back what we were already projecting to be over with.
right.
So if you look at our contingency here, if you look at the third column, the month ending, our contingency is at 1.2, but I also know we have open changes from phase 1, we have open changes from phase 2. Now these are numbers that may come down, they may move, but they're conservative estimates right now. And then I am, for transparency, I'm carrying additional costs for us at this time, which would really just cover Dave's time on site
Yeah.
if we go over schedule. We lost 2 months with everything that happened with the hydraulic and the asbestos. So if I need to keep Dave on site for 2 more months, I'm just letting you know that we'll probably be asking for some consideration there. So that brings our contingency down, as you'll see there, to roughly 720,000. So it's not like that money is everything we have to work with. We got a long way to go here. We got about a year to go. So we have to keep that contingency very close and make sure we're managing it well. There may be some credits along the way. I think the design team has done a very good job of finding credits where need be and bringing things up of ways of saving money as well. So it's a full team effort right now. I feel much better about the project now after the 1.6 was approved. I feel very confident we'll be able to finish strong now with that and use some of this monies to fund any furniture that may be needed or anything that either DPW or the fire needs at the end of the project in terms of things that we pulled out. Not necessarily wants, but needs.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm being very careful about saying that. Not necessarily things that they're wants, but needs that we may have taken out to get this project forward,
Yeah,
i.e. furniture.
And the thing that I want to make clear, and when we get to it, I want to make a motion to set aside a certain sum for the furnishings to take it out of that mindset. Because I don't want people to look at a bottom line and think, oh boy, now, again, it's Christmas time. I think we set aside money. You've delineated what the worst-case scenario is, that's fine. But I think if we move money into where it rightfully should have been, into furnishings, and then we deal with the remaining balance of the contingency only through the town manager, we'll be able to, as this thing is put through a funnel, we're getting,
Yeah.
we'll be getting towards the end pretty quickly here financially. So I just want us to be mindful of that from reporting and,
I think, Kevin, in simpler ways, people are listening, our intent is not to spend every single dollar we can.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Right? And we would like to have some money left over that we can just return to the town. We'll invest it in whatever's needed. Thank you, Brian, for that summary. I also want to mention that our general contractor, GNR, is also, I think, being very fair with us and straightforward, and they're helping us save money at the meeting. So And they don't have, there are contractors out there that don't do that, and I think we're very fortunate that GNR is on this project.
Yeah, I think speaking to that too as well, right? We had some, if I'm looking at, we've had a total of in voided change orders alone, over $1 million in change orders that we voided and said no to.
Canceled,
That
right.
we've canceled out,
Yep.
over $1 million. And a lot of that had to do with the way that the soils were working. We did have a claim for tariffs to be paid through the general contractor. That is now gone. The general contractor has taken that off the table after the design team rejected it outright from the beginning.
Right.
Along with extended general conditions that, again, the design team rejected outright. They've taken that off the table. They're not bringing that back up. So because of kind of, I don't want to call it horse trading, but what we've been able to do with the sewer beds, which if we didn't have that option, I think both sides, the town and the GC, would probably end up paying some sort of money because it was,
Yeah.
there was a lot of money being discussed. But that all went away, and that went off the table. And because of that, we were able to save the town, at this point, over $1 million in extras. So that's really helped.
It's been a good team. You just mentioned the resolution of the tariff dispute. Thank you. We refused to pay the extra tariffs, and we are not paying the extra tariffs. I put it on the agenda so I wouldn't forget. I wanted to thank Wayne Norling, who's been helping us out, and he's going to help run the fiber line. He's the town's IT guy, so he's helping us coordinate keeping the fiber connected to the buildings and updating when the time comes with the new lines. So I appreciate all his work. On the agenda is what Kevin got ahead of the game again with the furniture and furnishings and equipment, FF&E line item. Do you recall what our initial budget was?
Yes.
226,000.
26. As a predicate to that, I wanted to mention that the committee has been looking at ways to even save money on that. Bob Brisicchini is a principal in a firm up in Andover who's moving out of some office space, and they have some high-quality office furniture that's available. So we took a ride up there, Derek, Bob, myself, Deputy Driscoll, I think that was 4 of us, right? And viewed it, and there's potentially some opportunities there where the town might get some donated furniture for both buildings. We're still gonna have to buy some furniture that'll, fit properly in our buildings. But we are going down that road, trying to see if it makes fiscal sense for us to, it sounds good, take the free furniture, but we also have to pay someone to truck it down to Abington to put it in storage for 6 months until the building's ready, and then to bring it and sometimes reassemble the furniture. So we're looking at that. But given that, and assuming that that doesn't happen, we wanted to put money back into our furnishings budget out of the contingency so that we don't end up saying, oh, we blew it on something else. So
I won't let that happen.
none of us will, really. We've been talking about this for months, but we wanted to make a vote at the meeting to set aside a certain dollar amount to preserve for furniture and furnishings, with the understanding that if some unforeseen change order comes up that we need to pay, we may have to reduce this reserve account. But, I would be shocked if that happened. I hate to say that, put my neck out there, but I think we feel much more confident now because we're this far into the project. Anybody have anything to say about putting money aside for the furniture and furnishings? I think we all are in agreement to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion, we set aside 300,000.
Kevin makes a motion to set aside the sum of $300,000 out of the contingency to allocate that towards furniture and furnishings and equipment, FF&E. Any discussion on the amount or the motion?
Yes, so we spoke about commissioning. Is that money commissioning wrapped into this dollar value, or?
To be
Can
that
you
cost.
explain what commissioning is for the general public and for some of us? It's an important part of construction, but it's many times eliminated because they run out of money. So if you could speak about that?
So commissioning is done by a third-party vendor, typically for the MEP systems. the
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
And so we sort of zeroed that line item out at the very beginning. And because of the sophistication of some of the systems that we have, it would be beneficial to the town if we were able to go through and at least get the HVAC and the electrical systems, the generators and potentially the lighting controls.
How much, Bob?
So I know that Taylor,
So I looked back, so I was getting quotes at the time, and right before I got the quotes was when we took everything out of the budget. But I will say for similar building sizes of this, and now we have 2 building components, you're probably in the neighborhood of $50,000 for the commissioning services. We would, if approved, we'll move forward and get quotes. We'll get competitive quotes, but for a fire station, it's usually around 30. And then, for the DPW doesn't have a major, component there, but if you carry another 20, I think you're fine. I think somewhere between, 50 and 60,000 is probably fine for both buildings.
I'm looking at the gentleman from KBA. Would you agree that that's a reasonable estimate? Yeah.
Okay,
So we take that as a second motion.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, Bob. Would you want to hold it to 300 and we'll do that separately, or?
yeah, no, I was gonna say, go hold the 300, and I could, if you wanna do 2, that's fine, and do 350 for commissioning, and then whatever the balance is, with the full understanding, this is still a work in progress. The fact that the monies that Taylor has set aside may be, there may be wiggle room, so that may drop
back
down.
into
But I think at this stage of the game, I think it would be well worth it to put 300,000 for furnishings and 50,000 into commissioning, and I'd make that as a joint motion.
Okay, so there you go. So Kevin makes the 300,000 for FF&E, 50,000 to be set aside for commissioning. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
I have a question for the design team. Is 300,000 an appropriate number?
For 2 buildings.
Furniture, yeah. I mean, like you said, we were 225, 250 before.
Yeah, I think that should be fine. It
That was
might
all
even,
new.
might even come in less.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we don't have to spend all of that, but if we can basically put it in our savings account so that we don't leave it in our free contingency.
Correct.
Is everyone okay with those numbers, 300,000 and 50? If so, Kevin made the motion.
I just
Oh,
want
go
to,
ahead.
yeah. With the 300,000 towards that furniture, that would include the furniture that Bob's talking about and has, and any additional furniture for the entire build-out is necessary. And how do we determine, is this all of what Bob is proposing? His whole there's a package of
Furniture.
furniture there, and the question is that what we're voting on, all of that furniture? Or is there a process of how we're gonna get it selected at some point in
I
time?
think what he's trying to say is, if we do get the donated furniture, subtract those costs, that won't take from the 300,000. That would be remainder of the 300,000.
We wouldn't have to spend the
We
whole
wouldn't have to spend it
300,
all.
so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever we don't spend in either the 300 or the 50 would go back into the contingency.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, the fire department was looking at one of the conference room tables from the Andover office, but the architects were saying that might be too big to fit into ours, so that might not work out. But there were a number of cubicles, a lot of cubicles, and the DPW was interested in potentially taking 3 of them. There were probably 60 desk chairs of very good quality. We thought we could take almost 1 for every desk in both buildings.
I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's $500 a chair anyhow.
Take them all for anything.
Right, So, and again, we just gotta work out a truck to pick it up and place to store it. If you got an empty garage, we'll talk to you. In fact, if anyone has any empty warehouse space out there that we could use for about 6 months, we'd love to hear from you. That might save us a lot of money, and then that 300,000 doesn't have to be completely spent. But the 300,000 assumes the gifts don't work out, and we're buying everything new, right? So the motion's on the floor at 300,000 for FF&E, 50,000 for commissioning, seconded by
I'll second.
Derek. If there's no more questions or discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Point of clarification, though, again, on the budget. I've got nothing to do now, so. I just want to understand that is specifically for both departments, that any expenditures have to be coming through the committee of the town manager. That just because there's an appropriation here, doesn't mean it's in gold and you can go out and spend up to that amount of money.
Right. You're talking specifically about furniture right now? And furniture?
Whatever else.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the rest of this, and, yeah, if anything that would fall to the respective departments, I just want it understood that, that it isn't treated as their own budget. We need coordination.
Taylor, to that point, Kevin's point, I would further suggest that maybe, and it's just for example, commissioning, instead of saying 50 for commissioning, 30 for fire, 20 for DPW, right? And furnishings,
Yeah, let me get the quotes first and see if
Yeah.
that's a
And I'm more
break, but-
concerned on the furnishings, too.
Yeah.
Because I don't want all of a sudden, we're trying to coordinate through Bob's good graces what we're gonna do here, and I don't want all of a sudden everybody going off in 5 different directions and saying, oh, I've got, $300,000 to spend. Well, no, you don't.
right,
So I just want that understood.
right.
It would have been easier if I just stayed where I was, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, any furniture purchases are going to be bid through the committee. So we will have the final say on that. Of course, we will discuss those furniture purchases with the two departments. The architects have furniture design teams, and also we'll work with them. When that comes, that's going to be several weeks away, maybe months away, but we're trying to stay ahead of the game as much as we can.
I do want to clarify a couple other things on here, and Taylor can probably answer these, but just so everybody sees, on the budget, there's the fire station alerting system, security system, access control, phone data, audio-visual, computer, and communications. Most of that is going to be covered by our Holbrook.
Most,
Grant.
correct. I'd say AV is not, but that really covers, like, say you guys want to hang up a projector, or say you want a 100-foot TV somewhere. I'm just throwing out, kind of ridiculous stuff. But if you want something over and above, just typical TVs, or, then that's what that AV line would cover before, if you guys need like a projector.
Which we would approve as a
Yeah,
committee.
but
Yeah.
that's not, that wouldn't be covered by Holbrook, but you're correct. Any fire station alerting, the security and access control, those are covered by Holbrook.
That's why they're all
Communications
zeroed
and
out on
radio.
here.
Correct.
So, because they are
Derek's
covered.
referring to the fact that the fire department successfully got a $750,000 grant from the Holbrook E911 system, which also helped the town's project here
Yeah.
to get us through. So between that grant and the sewer bed solution, it's just been critical to the success of this project.
And on top of that other million, we've saved
Yeah.
almost $3 million.
Easily. And so in the comment section on that, the payment sheet that I was talking about, it all says by Holbrook, so it's just a little more detailed. This is more of a simple, 100,000 square foot. view.
Okay, promise
So
Mr.
for
Dunn,
the-
go ahead,
sorry.
show
So
Bob.
for the DPW building, do we have the audio visual in there?
Is that in the?
There was no AV for either,
And we zeroed everything out at the
for
very.
either department, no.
Right, but that's now an FF&E, wouldn't it be there was like 2 television or monitors or whatever, the security monitors and things?
What's FF&A?
Furniture.
Furniture, fixtures and
Fixtures and
equipment.
equipment.
You're $300,000,
Oh, thank you.
sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Yeah, I would think that would fall in the same category.
yeah, unless we're gonna break it into a separate line item. We can talk in more detail
Yeah,
about that moving
that's-
forward, but for right now, we're putting that money aside, okay?
What money? Sorry, I'm
The
confused.
$300,000 we just put aside for
Yeah.
for FF&E.
And
Correct.
50,000 for Bob's.
Commissioning.
So is
He
there?
he was
on
saying that
that-
the AV line that's here
Yeah.
isn't just fire, it's
Right.
fire and DPW, we zeroed it out.
Correct,
So
yeah.
if we need
Neither-
anything above or beyond, we're gonna have to fund it from
Yeah.
some.
It wasn't a.
Or as we get closer, we
Yeah.
can figure out what.
I think Bob's point was that line item was zeroed out was the fire department's audiovisual line item because they got the grant.
No, it was both.
Both.
It was AV for both.
AV isn't in that grant, is what Taylor was saying.
Okay, well,
Everything else kind of was, but the AV part wasn't. So if there's anything that we want to get, like you said,
So-
projector or.
Taylor, can you just clarify on all the TBDs with no values of what are some of the items that we're going to need?
Yes, I can update that.
We can have another meeting specifically about the budgets, maybe, another 3-4 weeks or whatever, and really fine tune now that we are able to update certain things. But Kevin's looking at his watch. He promised, he said he'd be here for 60 minutes and no longer. So just to finish up, want to just update everyone on the off-site improvements and issues, status of the Central Street water main replacement schedule. Mike, I don't know if you know anything more, but the town planner just, what, do you know?
No.
Okay, town planner just told me that Andrew Nocon, their financial director, is reviewing, I believe, the contract for the water department to get that project started. I don't know exactly when that means it'll get started, but that's great news for us. It'll have to coordinate with our project. This project, this water main replacement project is for Central Street from the bridge where the river runs into the Grove on Central Street up towards the railroad bridge. So it'll be critical to get that done before we open the fire station in DPW for obvious reasons.
It didn't go to Plymouth Street?
They were trying to determine how much money they had, whether it went to Park Ave or to Plymouth. I don't know the answer to that. That's why I said it's going towards the railroad bridge. I don't know where it's stopping. I'm hopeful they're going all the way to Plymouth Street. But that's a water department project. We've been in communication with them to just tell them that you need to communicate with us so that we don't have heavy machinery suddenly show up and dig in a trench when we're expecting deliveries of, some trailer trucks. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that one and, make sure that it works out well.
We did have a test with National Grid, replaced part of their main.
The gas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that up towards the,
Last week, yeah.
yeah.
Kind of crippled the road.
Without telling you mean? Did they just kind of show up?
I think everybody knew, people knew in the town that it was gonna happen, but they just.
They didn't
showed
tell you, yeah.
Yeah.
Just showed up and set cones up and made the road one way and.
All right, yeah, John Stone and DPW had applied for another state grant called the Complete Streets Grant about some Washington Street improvements, which would include improvements to the Washington and Central Street intersection. Proposal for a roundabout at that intersection. We didn't make it through that first round of grants, but it's been resubmitted, and we would find out that in about 4 months from now.
Yes.
So if that is approved, the timing of that is in question, but it's something that would help with the safety of that intersection, which is the last one. I was talking to a gentleman from Bell Signals about what can we do to enhance the safety of that intersection, and he offered to come down and meet with us and just say what signs we could use without putting we're not putting a set of traffic lights up there, but just signage we could use to say, emergency vehicles entering or something like that. So we'll update you more about that later when we get more information. Do you have anything you want to add, Mr. Maresco, as the town manager?
No, I just want to say, I think it's great how everyone coordinated and worked together. I've done in my career another couple of projects. Some of the architects were architects on our project, and it's important because costs, it's been a crazy economically between having to deal with the tariff issues. Cost, you always cost escalate very quickly. You don't know what the market's going to be like. But I was very, very impressed with how well everyone worked, architect, builder, owner, project manager, to make sure that we're getting the best possible project for the residents and the taxpayers. And these meetings, I think, are so important for the residents to tune in. They may not be able to tune in today at this time, but, tonight when they're home and they're AC and they want to look at some interesting things, they'll tune in. And they'll see how hard people work, because people just think, oh, town meeting just approves a number and people do whatever they want, but, it's important that people get recognized for the savings that people look for. And that wasn't just our own employees, that was our own project manager, GNR Construction, the KBA, all of the principal components all work together to make sure, so that's great, thank you.
And so just quick summary, the goal right now with the contractors, we've been pushing them, is to have the DPW garage space available by December so we can move the winter equipment in by December. Their office space might be open another 2 to 3 months later. The fire station, we're looking at May or June right now for an opening. And that's if everything keeps going smoothly.
I think they're ahead of schedule, but don't tell us
Yes,
that.
If things are, they're doing, the coordination that they put together is great, and hopefully the weather will cooperate through the rest of the year. We got through the blizzards and all. It's exciting, and for people who drive by Central Street and say, what the heck is that big building? That's your new fire station, and the DPW is out back. It still amazes me that people don't know what it is. Anything else to be discussed? Taylor?
Just one thing, I don't want to go backwards, but I think a point of clarification to what Bob asked about. So something like security and access control, that was pulled out only from the fire side so that Holbrook could refund it. But the security and access control is in the contract drawings for DPW, meaning Holbrook can't cover it because it's not E911. So it was only pulled out, those Holbrook things that we pulled out were only pulled out on the fire side, but they stayed in on the DPW side because we couldn't get
So it's
reimbursed.
already in the budget.
Correct. It's already in our general construction number.
Good. Anything else? Mr. Donovan wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn at 2:01 PM.
I have 2 o'clock on mine. All right, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for attending, and we will try to keep you updated in the weeks to come.